Welcome to the channel. I'm Rick.
And I'm Steve.
And today we're here to talk about the newest release in the Alien franchise, Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus is directed and co-written by Fede Alvarez. His filmography includes the Evil Dead remake in 2013, Don't Breathe, and The Girl in the Spider's Web. Now, you haven't seen any of these films?
Not one.
So I hadn't seen any of them either. So in preparation for seeing this movie today, I watched Ridley Scott's Alien, and I watched the Evil Dead remake. And I will say, I found the effects and the gore level pretty impressive. But I found the direction to be kind of lackluster. So it just kind of fell flat for me. And it was just kind of like a generic gore fest. So I think it put my expectations at a lower level than they originally were before I watched it, which is probably good, because sometimes I go into these movies thinking they're going to be amazing, and then I'm constantly disappointed.
Well,
so where were your expectations going into this?
My expectations were initially middle of the road. When I saw the first trailers, they bumped up. Like, I was like, woo! But I know the higher they bump up, the farther you can go down, just like a roller coaster. I've tempered my expectations to some degree, but the trailers look good. They look fantastic, and let's try to do a non-spoiler review initially,
Okay.
and then we'll go into the more detail a little bit after that. So, do you want to just like your first impressions?
Well, I was going to say, what are your first impressions? I mean, like you're coming in with the long-term Alien, Alien fan.
I walked in there, and the opening scene, without going into spoilers, it put you perfectly in the mood. It was like, all right, a little bit of throwback, a little bit of new stuff. Oh, this can lead to something cool. And then it downshifts into our hero characters and their situation on their planet, and it's very great expectation, sort of like Charles Dickens. Let's get out of here.
Right.
It's a miserable planet. It's a miserable, gross, dank existence.
It's a mining colony.
Yeah.
And they have to work for their release.
And it's awful. I mean,
and they're working for the company. So
it's
you know how that's going to be.
It was a little too close to real life for my liking. I was like, yeah, let's go, guys. I felt like, so initially going into this, I felt more connected to these kids. I mean, they are like young people. They're like probably in their early 20s and in their teens, maybe. Well, probably a little older than that. But nowhere near as old as the crew of the Nostromo. Nowhere near as old as the Marines and people from Aliens. So this seemed like a new group of, like, a new demographic for an alien confrontation.
Yeah. So
initially, all the world building was, I'm gonna say it was perfect. It capitalized on what was already there, made the lens wider, made the details sharper, it was awesome. I was like, yes.
I agree, right? Because it takes you down into a mining. So, like, everything's always been so, like, you're either with the Marines or you're with the Nostromo crew, and it's very small, and it shrinks the world way down. But this definitely opens it up to where you see, like, this is like a whole civilization. It's a whole mining colony.
Right.
So, it definitely, I mean, yeah, like, it looked amazing. Like, it looked great. I mean, there wasn't, yeah,
there was like fingerprints of the architectural design from Alien and Aliens on everything. It was just like going into, like, seeing a shop. Like, think of Alien as being a shop in a mall, and now we're going out into the mall itself, and you can see. So they have a plan to get off world, and of course, without going into spoilers,
the plan goes awry.
The plan goes awry as soon as they encounter an alien presence in a derelict spaceship, derelict space station that is sort of passing through the orbit of their planet fortuitously, or in this case, unfortuitously.
So yeah, I mean, to not get into spoilers, we can't really get more into the story than that, right? Already we're starting to give stuff away.
Yep, right. I mean, right there, it's a good setup. Yeah. It's like you get your people, you believe them, you want them to succeed. They don't even have to go very far. You know, they go to where they're going, and things quickly go awry. And just like in Alien, things spiral out of control. Just like in Aliens, it's like there's more than one problem. It's not just the alien. It's like a structural integrity. There's things going on with gravity. There's things going on. It's not just the enemy is not just the alien. It's circumstances.
Right.
Right. And that's good. They keep that up. And it wasn't too convoluted. There wasn't like situations that were like, give me a break. But
that's true. For the most part.
There was a lot of I would say Easter eggs, like lines that were echoed, callbacks.
Sure.
So if you weren't a fan, if you've never seen any other Alien movies, they would sail right over your head. But to me, it was like, of course, you said that.
And for the most part, they weren't delivered in a ridiculous like.
For the most part,
I said the thing. You know, I mean, I can only think of one where it was just like, oh, yeah, we got it. Like, you don't have to sell it quite so hard.
It did take me out a little bit every now and then, but forgiven because of the way everything was handled. Yeah. I mean, they had a great sandbox to play in. The effects, the scenery, the set design, A+. Set design.
Effects.
Yep. And when you want to talk about set pieces, like action sequences and scenarios that build and lead to other scenarios, creative, interesting.
I'll give it that.
A good way to say this without spoiling also would be take all your Alien movies. Alien, Aliens, Alien 3.
Fuck!
Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, and Covenant. And you take them all, and you bring them all together and smush them into a movie. And that's exactly, we got something from every one of those films in here. Every single one. So if you hate one of those movies, there's some element of this movie that you're going to go, that reminds me of that movie I don't like.
So, not to get into spoilers though, how do you feel about the story? Like, the plot?
The story and the plot were fine. They did not offend me. But like a Tarantino film, it's the plot drives you, and then all of a sudden the circumstances take over.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a horror film, right? That's a horror film setup, right? Like whatever MacGuffin it takes to get into the haunted house and the haunted cabin where all hell breaks loose. That's all it is, and that's all the deeper this plot. I mean, it's the plot of
it is. It is
of most of the Aliens. It's so like, but I mean, and so that's all there is. So yeah,
it didn't expand on anything more than say, like Alien was just a single alien in its environment. The theme was a horror film, 10 little Indians, they all get picked off until it's just one left.
Right.
Aliens, this time it's war. No kidding. I mean, it's just take a bunch of army guys and put them in another equally crazy situation and add some new toys in, add some new alien life cycle things in it, and you got Aliens. Alien 3, back to basics.
Yeah.
A little bit back to basics. So it's like a repeat. This also feels structurally like a repeat. It's the same drive, the same stakes, the same twists, and there's a twist at the end that's a little bit like from other films that were, I would say that, without getting into spoilers, the twists that happened towards the end of the third act, the end of the film, they echoed other parts of of previous movies that were not so popular then. And I'm wondering how people will think of them being kind of reimagined now. And we'll get into the details of that in a second. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think I do.
But I'm really trying not to get into spoilers yet. And when we just can't talk about it anymore without spoilers, we'll tell y'all so you guys can duck out, those of you
right.
who haven't checked it out yet.
So then let's move on to like the cast, right? So you have Kaylee Spaney, who I've seen in Civil War and Priscilla over the last year, and I thought she was great in both of those films. I really liked her in this. I thought she did a really good job. But the person I didn't know going into this was David Johnson, who played Andy. And like I was just like, that guy is the movie to me.
Yeah.
He did amazing. Like,
yes.
I've never seen him in anything else. And at first I was like, okay, but then he just comes on and he's just like, no matter what they're asking him to do, which is different things throughout this film, like he's great.
He's on my radar now. It's like I didn't even know. I don't know about him.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about who's the lead actress's name?
Kaylee Spaney.
I've never seen any of these actors or actresses before in anything.
Yeah, she plays Priscilla in the Priscilla Sofia Coppola, Elvis, and Priscilla Presley movie.
I haven't seen that, but I have seen that trailer, so I'm connecting it now. She did a good job. Everybody did a good job. There was a few guys, their accents were so thick.
Brother?
There was a couple
There was
guys.
one guy I didn't understand at all.
I was like, subtitles, dude. I could tell he was being a dick.
Well, people kept saying, why is he a dick?
Right.
So, I mean, that
Even
helps.
without that, I could tell. It was like, he was a dog barking. He's angry,
Yeah.
but I couldn't tell what he was saying because his accent was
It's pretty
very thick.
Very thick. But, yeah, I think all the cast was great.
The guy who played Andy, definitely on my radar. His facial expressions, sometimes I was like, is he real? Like he was making these expressions with his eyes that made me think, is that a subtle CGI? It wasn't. It was him.
Yeah, but I mean, I think really that sums it up for the non-spoilers. I don't know, but I don't want to talk too much because I don't want to get.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the effects because that's going to be like I'm going to have to talk about specific things about the effects, and some of those are going to be spoilers.
Right.
So.
I mean, the effects are great. The set design is amazing. The cast was great. David Johnson is superb.
Yes.
I will say though, I say all of these things, but it felt long. I felt like there's all these set pieces and there's all this stuff going on, but I still found myself going, we should probably be getting close to the end by now, huh? And I don't know what that is.
Pacing.
I think the pacing was weird.
There's a little bit of pacing issues, and not terrible pacing issues, because it never did I feel like I needed to get away. Like sometimes, even in good movies, sometimes I feel like I need to go stretch my legs.
Yeah.
It never felt that way, but I did come out of the movie and go, this movie is it's going on. Like I was expecting.
I check the time.
Yeah.
And if I'm watching a movie that's got me completely involved, I don't care. I don't look at the time. I check the time. And I clock that. And I think, when I went in, and like you said, it starts off good and it starts off solid and it gets you excited and you're on the mining colony and that's all happening. And then somewhere in there, it just kind of like leveled out. And like everything was great. It looks good. The action's happening, but
it never stopped looking good. It was good all the way through looking.
But I just kind of, okay, this is the end. Like there was no, and I
crescendo.
No, and I guess it's an Alien movie, right? So spoilers, people die in an Alien movie, and so you don't have something about like you know how it's gonna go. So like you don't have any stakes on any of the people, right? So it's just you kind of can forecast 20% of the way in, like who's here at the end, who's not, right?
I got to touch on something right here about pacing and about characters and about people dying. And I'm not going to get into specifics because of spoilers yet. But one thing that sort of it was kind of a negative. It was more towards pacing. In alien films, when an alien attacks and there's casualties, people are usually dead and gone and out of there. Except for in some rare occasions where the alien takes somebody away and you find them later in the hive.
Yeah.
And that was in Aliens. And I think there was a deleted scene in Alien, yes, where it was the same situation. In this movie, there was many people throughout. I mean, how many? There was only like 5 people in this movie, right? Six. And there were so many attacks that happened upon them, and then they were injured. Yes. And they kept going.
Yes.
They were injured, or in some cases it was a fake out, like they died, but then they weren't quite dead. They were just really injured. And this happened throughout. It wasn't just when they first got attacked. It was throughout the film.
And like you said, there was a lot more linger. Like effects are better now, right? So we probably would have had this linger back in the day too, when it wasn't just man in suit,
right,
all the time.
God damn it. Well, where the fuck?
The alien's like a ninja. Like, he's in, he's out, someone's dead, it's gone, it's quick. Like, this all is like, here I am, and I'm in it, and I'm killing you slowly, and the face huggers are slower. Like everything's slower, and it's on screen more, which gives great screen time to the special effects. But I think it loses something of that frantic.
Yep.
And,
I would say that reminds me a little bit it reminds me in that way a little bit of Alien Resurrection, where you see the aliens just sort of pondering around the hallways, looking around. And you see that a couple times in this film. The facehuggers, same thing. Sometimes they're just kind of chilling, or they're sensing the air, and the camera lingers on them a little bit, and it takes away a little bit of the mystery. It's eerie in its own right, but it reminds me of Alien Resurrection in a couple times in this film. And we'll get into that in more spoilers later. A little bit of Alien 3, a little bit of Aliens, and Aliens is like right on the nose. When this movie almost becomes Aliens for a little while.
Right.
And then the music cues are that way too. Like something happens that's like Aliens, there's like a little snare drum or a little or there's something happens like in Alien 3 and you hear the score, like almost an operatic score happen. And then there's a Prometheus callback, and then you hear the Prometheus music. And it's just like I get it. They like chime it in, like Peter and the Wolf with everybody's got their own musical notes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've gone as far as we can go without spoilers.
We'll wrap up the non-spoiler section. So, I mean, this is a recommend.
And without getting into detail about why I love and there's things that I don't love about this film, I would still recommend this film. Solid horror movie, solid thriller, solid sci-fi, all those things.
All true, yeah.
Good acting, good effects, good plot for what it is.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you saw the trailer and you were remotely interested, just looking at the trailer, like, get to the theater right now.
There was some cats behind us.
Yes.
That kept going, and it's like when they sounded dissatisfied, but what I think that was that just a different generation's way of going, don't go in there, or, oh man, here it comes.
I couldn't tell either. I'm like, these dudes are really hating this movie, because it was some heavy, like, sighs for sure. I guess you're probably right, because they also got excited about parts. So I've never known people to actively, note a sound and be disgruntled with a film, and then also be like, yeah, So I think you're right. I think they were just into it.
But this movie also elicited that from me, just not in a verbal way. Like I wouldn't disturb other moviegoers with my, just making sounds.
Yeah.
But these guys behind us did, but they weren't too terrible. I mean, I did see you turn back and look at them one time.
I was just trying to like understand. I was like, I can't tell if they're angry or not.
These guys have problems behind us, or okay. So from here on out, spoilers. I'm gonna turn the alien this way. That means spoilers from this point on.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay, we'll turn it back around when it's safe, if it's ever safe from here on out. Okay, so spoilers. Okay, let's start from the beginning again. Okay, so
go
right off the bat in the beginning.
Yes.
You see the wreckage of the Nostromo floating in space. I immediately thought Death Star issues from the Death Star in Rise of Skywalker. I was like, are they gonna find like recognizable pieces of the Nostromo? And they didn't really.
No.
They did what Star Wars should have done.
Yeah.
They showed just enough. They did what they needed to do, and they got out of there.
Yeah.
They showed a piece of the Nostromo that said the word Nostro on it, and it was like just enough to show you what it was. And then, spoiler, they find an asteroid kind of thing floating through space. At first, it looks like it could be a piece of the ship.
A very Giger-esque asteroid,
for
sure.
A very Geiger-esque, just a little bit tubular, a little bit, it looked like a chrysalis. A little bit like a chrysalis. And the ship picks it up, it goes inside, they do this welding thing. There's some aliens music cues where they're buzzing around it, just like they buzzed into the door in Aliens. They lift the top off, and like a geode, or like like one of those fossilized snails, they crack the top open, and the camera doesn't show what's in there, it shows the imprint of what's in there. And of course, it was...
Yeah, because they take away, because they cut the top half off, they cart the bottom half away, and then the camera lingers on the top, top half of the impression of what was
and
inside.
we see very clearly that it was the alien from the original Alien, who Ridley Scott referred to off camera as the big chap.
Yeah.
But it was just the original alien born from Cain in the original movie, floating in space. I guess he cocooned himself, went dormant, and we have no reason to believe that he's alive at that point. But it's an alien movie, so it's like he's like Jason or Freddy. He's not, can't count him out. So they take him off into the ship, and then boom, that's it. It goes down to the planet surface of our heroes. Actually, it starts off with a dream, doesn't it? It starts off
it's her sitting in the sun, because they don't have any sun on the mining colony. There's zero sun, so she dreams about sitting in the sun. And that's the whole thing, is trying to get off the mining colony.
Okay, yeah, because they never. I thought that they was going to revisit that dream aspect.
Yeah, I was surprised. It was just the one shot.
They didn't.
Yeah,
it was like it paid off later when she saw the sun over the horizon of the planet.
Yeah,
but that was it. So it starts off with that. She wakes up. Her life is miserable. Her friends are they're almost like coworkers. They're like they work together. They kind of create bonds together.
Well,
There's brother and sister pairs, and there's girlfriend and boyfriend pairs. And they did a good job at describing how this young generation is now stepping up to take up the slack, because the older generations are dying in these jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
like
the main character's parents are both dead, and
you see
all their parents are dying. I don't think anybody has anybody left.
Right. You see some old timers going off, and they have the canaries and birds in a cage, just like in the old
canary in a coal mine.
Canary in a coal mine, yes. And so they allude to the fact that they're just accelerating and using people, smoking them down to the filter real fast.
Sure.
Which feels a little too familiar in our world, obviously. But we're not going to turn that video into a real world complaints. But so somebody gets the idea to escape the planet by breaking into a derelict Weyland-Yutani ship that has floated into their sector that they know about somehow. I didn't retain why they found out about it. But somebody had some intel on it, and the word spread.
The problem was, I think a lot of that was given by heavy accent guy. So a lot of that conversation, I had a hard time because I could only really understand like one half of it. So
right.
It was a little sketchy.
They want to use they
bring her in so they can use Andy, because Andy's a Weyland-Yutani synthetic. God, I'm gonna call him a replicant at one point. I've been fighting it this whole time. I'm getting my Ridley lore confused.
You started out with Blade Runner, so yeah.
So I mean that's why they get him, and that's why they're brought in, and shit happens, right? They're on the ship. They're going around. They're trying to figure out what's up. They because they turn on the ship and everything gets powered up and the gravities work and the heat works. All the facehuggers get loose, right? Yeah. And so they're, you have the big scene. All the facehuggers are running around, and these facehuggers are not nearly as deft as ones in the old days. Like they're managing to bat them off.
Yep. They look a little different. They look darker and more crustacean-like. Yeah. And we're led to believe that they were engineered.
Yeah.
Like back engineered from the original Alien. They conduct experiments, which, real quick before you move on, that could be a whole other movie.
Yeah.
Like whatever happened on this base before this movie happened, that would be a very interesting movie of itself. But keep going.
So the two heavy accented gentlemen managed to fight their way out of they're locked in the tiny little space.
Yes.
With all like a whole slew of facehuggers. They managed to get out from that. They're crossing a room, and the pilot girl immediately just gets one right in her face, and boom, done.
Yep. And it actually flies past 3 people, and
just her. Boom, and she's out. Right? They managed to bat them off like nobody's business, and she gets it immediately, and they can't figure out how to get it off. But what's right over here on the ground? Oh, it's half of I'm gonna call him a replicant again.
Synthetic.
It's synthetic. Well, we gotta power him up because he's probably the only person who can tell us how to get this thing off. So they throw Ian Holmes' dead ass up on the counter.
Ian Holmes.
Dead, poor, rest in peace, Ian Holmes, up on the counter, and he's obviously CG, and he's obviously young Ian Holm looking. His name is Rook, looking like Bishop?
Yep.
Yeah, it is Bishop, right? Bishop from Alien.
Cut in half.
Cut in half.
A little bit janky, like his ears falling off. And
at first, I was like, this is cool. I'm okay with this. Like, it's Ian Holm, it wasn't terrible.
It wasn't.
This was where the effects kind of lag. It's got that weird Luke Skywalker at the end of Mandalorian season 1
a
kind
little
of
bit.
look.
You can forgive it a little bit, and this is what I did in my head. I was like, he is a damaged robot. He's glitchy. His voice sounds funny.
He is.
So his muscles might look like bad CGI or not great CGI.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. I would have rather they should have damaged his face a little bit more, and I could have bought it. He just had like a weird mouth.
His mouth moved funny, but from his nose up looked almost perfect. Right. But his mouth was jacked up.
So they brought him in, and I was like, okay, maybe this will be all right. He's going to tell him that's how you get the face. He gives him a little bit of advice. But no, he turns into the exposition dump machine, and so he's talking, and Andy, who's now they've given Andy a chip from Rook, so he can get more clearance in the ship, and it kind of reprograms him and gives him a new directive to help the company not reign. And so now Andy's taking orders from Rook, and it's just like they've given him way too big a part at this point, and I'm like, no. And the fact that Ian Holm is now popping up throughout the rest of the movie,
like on little screens.
When he was on screens, it wasn't so bad too, because they're little black and white, old school screens. But like, he's crawling across the desk and he's reprogramming things, and I'm like, oh no, this is not what this was the one thing I didn't want, and this is what they did. So this is, I mean, it didn't really take me away from the movie, but just every time he kind of came up on screen, I was a little bit like,
they should have used him about 10 minutes less than they did.
Yes.
They should have had him. If they could have done without him in the middle of the film, and then have him pop up back at the end. Where he did his. He pops up and sort of reveals the grand scheme, as these synthetics often do when they're turncoats. But
got a monologue.
That's fine.
Support a monologue.
That was fine. What I kind of found, I took issue more with something he said than the fact that he was present. And that's the fact that the company somehow knew that Ripley survived. And that the alien was in the craft with her. So it knew that, because we know that 57 years later, they find her. So it's almost like the company shouldn't have known that, but Rook just talks about it like...
Yeah.
Talks about it like it's common knowledge, and everybody is just like, like they wouldn't have known what's going on. So, was that your main complaint with the movie?
That actually is my main complaint, I think, with the movie, is Ian Holm.
Okay, my main complaint of the movie would have been probably a combination of the pacing and the bipolar nature of which film they were going to crib from a little bit. So it really goes from Alien, which is fine, goes to Aliens, which was a little cheesier when they did it, because it was like, hell yeah, and then it was like, cut to her, like, with all of a sudden the lighting turns into alien lighting.
He said, here's the guns, don't shoot them. Why did you give us guns? Because it may scare them off or intimidate them. It's like, why
were you coming up with that?
Based on what? The thing was born literally 8.5. What is the incubation time for an alien? Because
it's all over the place in the movies.
Because this movie, it literally, in real time in the film,
40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Within 40 minutes, the thing is born and grows up to adulthood.
Grows up to adulthood, yes.
And in previous films, it's been slow, it's been fast. In Alien 3, it took the entire whole movie before anything happened.
Right.
You can forgive that because it was a queen and maybe it was like had to gestate longer.
Right, I mean, everything, like the face huggers are slower because they just came out of cryo sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
They're in hibernation.
And they
like,
changed-
everything's got a different excuse, and maybe it's because these ones were engineered, so they are engineered
Sure.
to incubate quicker.
You can suspend your disbelief.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I just thought that was
Okay, so
really fast.
when they couldn't decide what movie they wanted to,
Yeah.
the overall, the last third of the film felt like the Poseidon Adventure, which is a ship sinking and going all the shit and people moving through all the decks trying to get to safety.
Back
And that-
when guys that look like Gene Hackman could be heroes.
Exactly, it was an old movie. But Alien Resurrection was basically that in space. It was
Yeah.
like all these people kind of coming together, soldiers and scientists and bounty hunters, all joining together and trying to survive together through the decks. This film turned into the driving force of it turned into Alien Resurrection, where it was just like these people were trying to get through the ship that was falling apart, and aliens in this hall and facehuggers in that hall, and it was literally like a video game at times, where it was like, which way do you want to go? Which way is this is the hard path, this is the impossible path, and this is going to be, the gravity problems they were having. But then it really went full Alien Resurrection after they played their Prometheus ditty with the pathogen. They extracted that somehow from the alien, and they played the Prometheus music for a minute, and then they were talking about, oh, it's going to be a bioweapon, and they're like, oh no, quite the contrary. This is for people. It's going to make them more robust for when they are on mining colonies, so they'll last longer. And so they make it sound like they're doing it for the benefit of mankind, and they crush a rat, and then they bring the rat like back to life using that
The serum,
pathogen.
Yeah, the pathogen.
And then what the people don't see is that after it comes back to life, it then mutates into a monster.
Right.
So this film, one of our main side characters is discovered that she's pregnant, and she is mortally wounded several times throughout the film. But the last time she's mortally wounded, she's actually going to die. And they're like, one of the situations was, we can save her with this pathogen. And then against, somebody that obviously has a brain on their shoulders said, no, maybe we shouldn't use this pathogen. Maybe we should just get her to the cryo chamber.
Let's not trust that top half of Bilbo Baggins, because I know he hasn't done anything to earn our trust. Let's not do this.
Exactly. So anyway, they don't do it. They send her packing on her own, and for some reason, she uses it on herself. Did she even know it could do that? I didn't even think she was conscious for when they were talking about it. But either way, she's having a bad time. She takes the syringe and she sticks herself in the neck with it. And the people behind us went when she did that. And I took that as, what a dumb, she did that. And so obviously it makes her healthier. She's able to escape. She's able to do her thing. But the movie kind of ends. The aliens are defeated in a way. And then, like in Alien Covenant, nope, there's a stinger at the end. And the woman who was in cryo with her child is now infected. And there is a hybrid creature, human-alien hybrid creature that is birthed out of her. And she survives that too. So she's a cat. She's got 9 lives.
She did indeed survive that too.
And it automatically, for you Alien fans out there who have seen all the Alien films, it is basically like, let's do Alien Resurrection again. Where there was an alien-human hybrid at the end of that film that was born out of the Queen, who inherited Ripley's childbearing abilities. Like, they shared their DNA, so Ripley was a little bit alien and the alien was a little bit human. Well, the alien gave live birth to this being that was called, I believe it was called the Newborn, and it was a fleshy, lanky, tall, hunchbacky, miserable looking thing. And it was kind of goofy and funny looking, and this was Alien Resurrection. It was like somebody in this movie saw Alien Resurrection and said, cool concept, let's do it again, but make him creepier and weirder and more Slender Man-like.
He was a little bit more Slender Man-like. I still found him funny.
He was still funny, but he was more eerie and creepy.
Yeah.
He was creepier. He was less... Because this alien was like basic... The alien in Alien Resurrection basically was a child at times.
Yeah.
It was like, it made cooing sounds. It embraced Ripley. It was a little child.
This one had 4.5 minutes to become a pissed off adult. So it ran in ready to kill.
This one...
And it did.
This one kind of gave off the vibes of... Did you see a movie with Adrian Brody called Splice?
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, that's creature, when it reached its peak in that film, like it would change genders, which was eerie, the way it did that, and the way it reacted to the different genders. It was definitely some Cronenberg stuff going on. Well, that's what I was thinking this creature was going to do, because there was one scene where he was walking up, and he was like, oh, he doesn't have any genitalia, but I was expecting something to happen, because he seemed kind of like he was creeping,
Yeah.
like he looked like he was about to commit a felony, if you know what I mean.
Well, I mean,
he was kind of...
He did end up eating his mom, so that is a felony.
Yeah.
Just a different kind.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. He did. He had a tongue that
she did die from that though. That finally got her.
But did she though?
Yeah.
She might have lived. The serum might have. Well, her body was left in the ship, and then it got bashed with rocks. So yeah, if she survived that, she's a trooper, man. So that was... I took issue with that. I took issue with it. I thought the creature was interesting and different, but too much like calling back to Alien Resurrection. And it gave me those vibes. It was almost like a remake of that scene.
Yeah.
Right on down to how it died too. Like a little hole appears in the hull, and it gets sucked out. Except there was a switcheroo. She got sucked out. She was in a spacesuit, but this film was like somebody took all the parts of all these movies, like I described, and smushed them all together and pulled some out to make them a little more unique. The set pieces were interesting and cool and kind of convoluted and crazy. Like in Alien Covenant, there was a scene with a crane flying through the atmosphere, and the weight of it was unbalancing the ship, and the alien was all over the place. There was a lot of things like that in this. It was like, we have CGI. We can do anything we want. We can make this set piece as wild as we can be. And that happens in this film. But there's also a lot of claustrophobic...
Yeah, I think it does a good job of doing both.
It does both.
It rides it pretty well for the set pieces, for sure.
It was a roller coaster. It was like a roller coaster that took you on a lot of familiar dips and turns and caves and tunnels. And then there was a couple times on the roller coaster where you were like, it's breaking down. It's stuck. I'm stuck upside down. And then it keeps going. So it's not perfect. No. I don't love this movie. I love the way it looks. I love the acting. And I love a lot of the set pieces. I will say the effects, the creature effects, they were good, but I don't know, the way they were shot maybe wasn't as expert as, say, Ridley Scott would have done it, or James Cameron. If you saw the aliens from Aliens, not in lighting, they looked horrible. They almost were like black lycra suits with just ribs stapled to the people. Yeah. And they were spray painted white. They looked weird. Yeah. But Cameron knew what he was doing, because in the way he photographed them, he knew that the stunt actors could move perfectly. And so it was perfect. You see those scenes in Aliens where they're unfurling out of the walls? Masterclass, chef kiss. Yeah. But in this movie, they do a little bit of that, but it's clearly CGI. Yeah. Some of those were not people because the proportions were different. But there was a couple times where the aliens, their close-ups on their faces looked a little bit like the aliens from Alien Resurrection, where they kind of have this pumpkin head look to them. Like their lips are a little fleshy, and they don't look as Geiger-esque. They look a little more fleshy, and they did in...
What was the credit they gave him?
Elements.
Elements, yeah. Elements
in the end credits, they said original Alien Elements by H.R. Giger or Geiger, however you want to pronounce it. But I was like, they didn't give him full credit for designing the alien.
No, which tells you how much changes they made. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I still thought they were pretty good. I mean, at the end of the day, the spoiler here is that Fede Alvarez is not Ridley Scott or James Cameron, so I don't think anybody's surprised by that. But I mean, I think it's pretty good.
Visually, very pleasing. Visually pleasing. Good acting. It's no wonder the trailers look so good. They had so many shots they could pull from to make a cool trailer. And there was a lot in the movie that wasn't in the trailer. So if you've listened to all these spoilers, we should have said that during the non-spoiler. There's plenty in the movie that they didn't show in the trailer at all. Did they leave it open for possible more aliens happening? Or, I mean, everything was pretty soundly destroyed, as far as I could tell.
Sigourney soundly destroyed the alien that we just watched them pick up at the beginning of this movie. It's hard to say. You know, I think any alien movie that ends with people in cryo chambers going, hope this works out, like, that's already open for a sequel, right?
True.
So,
and whether they capitalize that or not is solely based upon whoever is writing and directing the next film, I guess.
Right.
The character of Shaw from Prometheus, she didn't survive into the next film, Covenant. She was unceremoniously dispatched off camera.
It's another thing they do between alien films a lot of times too.
And it looks like they did that at the end of Covenant too. I mean, they basically pulled the switcheroo that nobody saw coming, right? With David and Walter mixed up. Alien Romulus. I'm of two minds about it. I can recommend it to anybody, but take your expectations down a notch. It's not going to break any ground. It's not going to make anything... It's not adding anything necessarily new in terms of concepts to the franchise. It's creative. There's lots of good set pieces. They explore a lot of things that they've alluded to in past Alien movies. They show parts of the life cycle that they didn't show before, like what happens between a chest burster and a full adult. It obviously goes into a weird cocoon thing. I always thought it shed its skin and just got bigger like a snake, but this is, nope, it goes into like a chrysalis. And then it, has all kinds of gross things that happen when it comes out. But I would give the visuals and the look of it, it's probably the best technically looking at world that we've seen in an Alien film. Obviously borrowed and expanded upon by the predecessors. But as a film, I don't know where I would rank it in the Alien franchise. Obviously, it's too early to say, but it definitely doesn't beat the first two for me. And you're a big Aliens 3 fan.
Yeah, but that's more of a nostalgia trip than a...
Yeah.
I'm going to hold this up and go, man, David Fincher can do no wrong, So I like this better than 3, for sure. And I think I would put them in that exact order, 1, 2, and then Romulus.
A little off subject, but everyone should know exactly what I'm talking about. Have you seen the Alien 3 work print cut? They would call it the director's cut if the director had anything to do with it.
Right.
But what they did famously...
Fincher pretends like he didn't even make that movie.
Fincher really bitterly hates that film or hates that situation. I mean, he loved the film, but they took away all control from him.
Yeah.
And they made him do things that he did not want to do on that film, and then they cut it. They took his cut and chopped it all up and did different things with it. And he was like, I disown this film. What I think they did was they released his original cut, which was a work print cut, and it is a superior film.
Imagine that.
Have you seen that?
I don't know that I have, actually.
I'm letting you have it tonight.
All right.
It's the alien is born from differently.
Are you about to give me spoilers? There going to be spoilers in the movie you're handing me today.
I'm not going to tell you exactly, but there's lots of different set pieces.
Give us strength, O Lord, to endure. We are poor sinners in the hands of an angry God.
Amen.
This thing is really pissed off!
And famously, when I met you in television production class, I was all about aliens and filmmaking, and I was making an alien movie myself, and I cast you in it. I wanted you to play you wanted to play a small character.
I wanted to be Charles S. Dutton from Alien 3. I wanted to go out like mano a mano with the alien.
Fuck you.
But I didn't. I made you be the main character because another friend I had at that time who was diverging on a path of lifestyle choices. I was a big nerdy filmmaker kind of guy, and he was going off and dating. He was starting to date, hot chicks and driving off in his car and stuff.
Can't imagine why you'd want to do that.
Yeah. So I wanted to make this movie, but I lost my main actor, so I made this guy be my lead actor in our Alien film.
No, we're talking about an alien here, Jones. Something no one's ever seen before.
That'll be quite enough, Mr. Reynolds.
No, that's not enough. People are dying, Dan. And if we don't do something about it, we're gonna die too. We don't do something now.
Really, tell me, what do you propose we do about the situation?
Organize a search party. We find it and we kill it.
Peter, Nathan, Cohen, they're all dead, damn it. We can't kill them.
And I love the fact that I still said, no, I don't want to be that part. So you just wrote that part out. That character was completely eliminated from the script.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, you just said, oh, you don't want to do it? That's some real studio shit that you hit me with when we were 16. Like, oh, we're going to get around his contract. We're going to eliminate the main character, so he has to become the main character by default.
He had to be a main character because the studio was a dude that didn't have his driver's license. And this dude had his driver's license. And he liked adventure and excitement. And he didn't want to be the main character. And I think that about a quarter of the way through the movie, he realized that he was the main character. Because the script was changing as well too. There's a lot of elements you're going to see in the director's cut that are going to echo our film, our terrible film. Like everything that's great about Alien, the atmosphere, the dark corridors, the what am I looking at, lighting. Our film is just like
our
bright.
We were 16 and we shot it in the high school hallways, so I don't know that you can really get to the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Completely. It's like if Alien took place in a high school.
Nathan! Come on! I'm finished with your company policy bullshit. I'm not gonna stand around and let people die for no reason. Not when we can still do something about it.
If Alien took place in a vocational school.
We should have just done that instead of trying to pretend like it was a ship. We should have just wrote the sets we had into the script instead of trying to make it work.
An alien attacks a bunch of air conditioning students learning AC.
Can't believe you. What's with you, dumbass? What's wrong with you?
They get this thing, it's all over. The whole world is safe.
Something, right?
So, I recommend it. Bring it down a notch in terms of expectations. It's gory. It's there's some unsettling scenes about it. There's some pretty graphic destruction of human heads. It shows a lot more than other past films have. It's a little more gratuitous, but it's not over the top gratuitous. No. They cut away. They show things. They imply things. Yeah. There's some pretty like birthing issues at the end that was kind of like, oh Lord. A lot of people I saw people going in the seats. But that makes a lot of people nervous.
Stuff with babies usually make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Yeah. So I definitely recommend it.
I do too.
Not in love with it. I'm not like passionate for it. I'm not running out and buying all the Alien Covenant things.
We don't even have a popcorn bucket.
They sold out at 12. We ran into a dude at the movie theater who had a popcorn bucket with the facehugger on it. And it has articulated fingers. I was like, that's pretty cool. But I asked him, I was like, hey, did they give you free popcorn with that? And he was like, yes, they actually did. He said he came in on his lunch break at noon, got the bucket, went back to work, and then after work came to see the movie. He said when he came to see the movie, to come and actually see it, they had already sold out. And that's what we know when we walked in because nobody had any of these popcorn buckets.
This guy just literally went on his lunch break, and then 7 hours later came to see the movie
with the popcorn bucket.
The popcorn bucket. It's crazy,
making everyone jealous.
This fervor over popcorn buckets is getting a little crazy. But yeah, I recommend the film too. From all the things that you said that we've covered, I'm giving it a B+. I think it was a good time. I don't think you go wrong checking it out.
Yes, and I kind of hope that we'll see what happened on the Romulus base ahead. Like maybe they'll do a prequel or have some sort of maybe a game that takes place in that setting. But that's a whole nother story that they can tell. kind of like in Aliens when the complex fell to the aliens. That could be a whole movie in itself too. So, but cool. Yeah, I give it about a B plus. Maybe at times it kind of dips lower and at times it goes higher. But steadily average.
That's not how grades work.
Yeah, you're right.
We're giving it one grade.
I started getting an A, but then I failed the course because I got everything else wrong. All right, well, ask the people at home what did you think about Alien Romulus? Where does it fall on your timeline of Alien films for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? What's the order? What's the best to worst?
Best to worst. And you can even tie some of them if you want to. I know these things.
That's a cop out.
Oh, yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. If we see any ties,
own
we're
up to your shit.
I think at some point I'll list it in the comments. I'll list my favorite in order. But right now it's too fresh. I don't know exactly. Yeah. There's parts of it that I really like that I'm like romanticizing it, and there's parts that I might be judging too harshly, just cause. But solid overall. Great time.
Indeed.
All right.
Sweet.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Go see that movie. Support it. We want to see more movies like that in the theater. More sci-fi, more thrilling horror sci-fi. I would like to see it. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care. We should say, we're Steve and Rick signing off. The last surviving members of Auditorium 9, where they ran out of popcorn buckets.